Salutations, Space Cadets, and thank you so much for landing back on my channel. For today's mission, we're going to cover the Marvel Snap patch notes coming relatively soon. The next patch notes that we get will be potentially this one. Now, this is a leak from Reddit. You know, those take that with a grain of salt. So this might not be reflect anything that is in the next patch. I'm not really in the Marvel Snap partner program yet, so I'm not privy to any patch notes ahead of time. So that's why I thought to cover this here. Once I am eventually in there, as you guys subscribe and stuff like that, I will no longer cover any of the leaks. So take this with a grain of salt. We're gonna react to these together because I haven't read them myself actually. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below, whether you like what the changes are going to be happening or not, or potentially happening. So keep that in mind. Might not happen. But we have, they said this is our first patch back from our holiday break, so it's a bit more focused on polish and balance updates. As we look ahead to 2024, we hope you are excited as we are. Now, the balance update, card updates. First one, headline, Loki. 4-5 is the old one. Yeah, but now the new one it's a 4-6. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading. Transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck and give them -1 cost. A buff? Am I just missing something? Transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck. Okay, let me just read the notes. Loki has been a force since release, fueling a new archetype that dominated the metagame for a solid stretch. Loki shrugged off our OTA nerf to 4-5, and it was a small hit, but it probably about half as effective as we hoped. We needed another patch to implement a second change, so we took the time to play with some fairly different changes and monitor the metagame. As December began, we even saw Loki falter, Darkhawk bounce, Destroy were all winning the matchup convincingly. Blob Thanos shook things up a bit, and Loki was able to squeak back into the mix on top. Once we saw that, we decided to soften our approach rather than pursue a larger rework. This adjustment will remove the collector's role as a massive source of power for Loki decks. Winningest card overall in the Loki decks has rarely actually been Loki. It was usually the collector. That's actually fairly surprising because drawing the collector earlier is much better than later when compared to Loki, meaning more loser collectors are in the data. This change will be good for the collector long term because future patches will be able to balance the collector around its strength in other decks without the burden of Loki's glorious purpose. Am I missing something? Where are they mentioning collector? I don't get it. Turning Loki to a 4-6. You know, this is why you should take these with a grain of salt. This might not even be the case. Unless I'm missing something, unless I'm just misreading this. It seems like a buff to Loki. I'm so confused. Maybe it was a typo. I don't know. Yeah, Miss Marvel. Old or now is new is ongoing your adjacent locations with 2+ cards with no repeated cost. Have 5+ power. Okay, wait. Maybe this. You know, no. I'm still confused. They both wait. Replace. Transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck. Oh, now I get it. So they won't count as new cards. They're being transformed into it, similar to Morph. Okay, now I get it. Okay, so now the collected. Okay, now it just clicked. I was just like, am I reading this wrong? Okay, yeah, it's transform instead of replace. Okay, we got that. All right, that actually probably is a decent nerf into the collector stuff like they were mentioning stuff. So that is interesting change. All right, 4-5 ongoing. Your adjacent locations with 2+ cards and no repeated costs have 5+ power. Okay, so it's just basically saying that you need to at least have 2 cards committed on in both lanes. Also have no repeated costs. So it's making the condition just a tad bit harder. Because honestly, the condition for Miss Marvel wasn't really that much of a condition. It very you're already kind of doing that in a lot of cases. In the first place, there are times where it gets kind of annoying, like you get freaking hit with the Central Park and you get a bunch of squirrels when you already have a 1-drop and it just kind of screws you over. But for the most part, you know, the condition wasn't really hard to meet at all. So let's see what they have to say with that. This is a small change in scope, but we expect it to have a meaningful impact. We released Ms. Marvel without requiring 2 cards in adjacent locations, in part because we found it difficult to clearly communicate the effect when it had multiple conditions. However, something we learned from players was that for many of them, the default assumption was that 2 cards would be necessary anyway, because we also weren't psyched about how well Ms. Marvel synergized with Professor X. This change captures better gameplay while shaving off a bit of strength. Even though we adjusted the words, the card otherwise is the same as before. You just need 2 cards in an adjacent location instead of 1. It didn't really seem, I mean, it could be just me, but it didn't really seem like people are assuming that you require 2 cards for Ms. Marvel to work. And almost it seemed like people were assuming that you needed, you could have 0 cards. And you just it would just give you +5 to both of those locations and stuff like that. Like 0 cards counting as a unique cost. It seemed like that was more assumed than the other thing, but maybe I just wasn't aware of such things. As I said, it's newer to the Marvel Snap content creation, so who's to know? Yeah, so now you can't just solo Professor X in the first place and then get that, make it like 6 in the lane because of Ms. Marvel. I mean, there wasn't a ton of people doing just straight up Professor X, nothing else, into a Ms. Marvel type of situation. I mean, there was obviously, but it wasn't like you usually had something else in the lane, and then you could still have Jeff to still do the same thing, and still get into that if you wanted to do it. Now we have Annihilus. Now this is going from a 5/7 to a 5/5. Your cards with power below 0 switch sides, destroy those that can't. Let's see, seems like this is in reverse or something. Maybe that was just the way that the leaker did it, but maybe there's something that they mentioned here. Even though Eternal Playtest successfully found most of the Annihilus decks we've seen on top of the metagame, their performance was surprising. In particular, the strength of just playing Annihilus with Sentry and or Hood in decks with no other synergies has been very good. During design, we widened Annihilus' condition to include 0, in part because we were worried it wouldn't be enough restricted to such a tight set of targets, but clearly that was sufficiently strong. Given that that's the case, we're restoring our preferred design that requires cards to have negative power and taking a little base power away from Annihilus. That might seem heavy, but Annihilus has been one of the most significant outliers in our card performance data for weeks now, at every level of play. Even more surprising, Annihilus was performing better in our most competitive samples than anywhere else. Usually strength flattens up there. Okay, so... Oh, so it's saying 0 or less, and this one's power below 0. I get it. Yeah, Annihilus was pretty strong, and you can just splash it in. You can do a Sentry and Hood package like they were mentioning, and just send those over wherever you need to, clogs up some spaces. It potentially gives them -10, and sometimes it's just good enough if they're not playing anything like Destroy. And then they're just like, well, I guess I just lose right because you were supposed to lose right because of Sentry. So now, it strictly only works with things that are below 0. So I mean, you could still do the exact same thing. It's just like you can't transfer over rocks and stuff like that. So now I better put out those videos regarding Selene, because I had debris in those decks, so you will no longer be able to send over rocks. It has to be negative power, which is fine, probably okay to do, but they also shaved off some power too, which is kind of concerning for the Annihilus thing. Then we have Dracula. It was a 4/0, now a 4/1 at the end of the game. Discard a card from your hand to gain its power. So it's looking like it's gonna gain its power. It doesn't say it has its power. So, I mean, that in niche cases could do something, but in a lot of them it doesn't really do much because it's still at the end of the game. But now you could I guess in the cases of you what's it called, Invisible Woman, and put a Shadow King behind it in the same path that Dracula is, that you can sometimes tag it because your Invisible Woman will go off at the end of the game after Dracula already triggers, and then maybe, yeah, okay, sure. We're still monitoring this card deck's performance in the wake of losing America Chavez, and one of the cards most damaged by that change was Dracula. In addition to this minor buff, reworking Dracula this way makes his text more clear and provides us with additional balance knobs to buff or nerf him as necessary in the future. We like having more dials to turn. I mean, I guess technically it is a buff. You give him +1 power. So if you discard an Infinite, hey, 21 Infinite. Yeah, let's go. I mean, sure. But there's very niche cases where this is a nerf, some would say. Then we go all the way to Angel. Whoa, Angel. Angel changes. Hold on. Whoa, I saw Quake 2. Sorry. It was a 1/2. Yeah. Now it's still a 1/2, but when one of your cards is destroyed, this flies out of your hand or deck to replace it. So, are we going to see some M'Baku changes to also get that to go? Maybe. Now, then I mean, yeah. It's alright. It's definitely better. I don't know if that will make it played, but it's definitely better. Wait, it'd be also, that might be too strong. Like, if it also, like, if you discard it, it still worked. Because then it would just be like X23, but without the +1 energy. So, I don't know. Hey, we did it! This change has been in queue for a while, but we've delayed it to ensure we can implement and test the VFX. Angel is a card we give to players early, so we wanted to be sure we weren't breaking a charming piece of that new player experience. So yeah, they still expect it to be like a new player card, not going to do too much, but it's still, you know, a welcome change, something they could do, and it can make it more fun for more people, but it won't break the meta or anything. I don't think this is a meta breaking change. I mean, like I said, it's just X23, but you don't get the +1 energy. So I don't know. You probably won't play that. Then we go to Quake. It was a 2/3 on reveal. If this is the middle location, swap the positions of each location. It is now still a 2/3 on reveal. Swap the positions of the other 2 locations. Okay. I mean, that's something. That could potentially be helpful. I don't know. Especially, like, I don't know, like, you draw your Cosmo late and you expect them to potentially get rid of your Limbo, and then you can use Quake to reposition the Limbo behind the Cosmo, and then you can still protect your Limbo. Yo, Quake broken! You know, it's still nice. Why not? This is very similar to Angel, although our solution might have been less obvious. We expect Quake might become an interesting alternative to Scarlet Witch and a potent tech against strategies relying on Storm or Legion. Oh, I guess. Well, I was gonna say, like, well, how's that stop Legion? But I guess they're kind of saying, like, if you're anticipating a Legion, you can play Quake in anticipation for that, and then turn the location into something that might benefit you, or that does nothing in general. So when Legion hits it, it doesn't do anything. So I guess that could be the case as well. And then that Storm change that they mentioned could also be a good thing as well for Quake gamers. Yeah, I can honestly see that, considering, because now you can pretty much play it in any point in the game, and you can start winning those other lanes, and then they might think they're winning, and then you Quake them. Especially since it's a 2-drop, so 2-drops are pretty good on the slots, because like you could play like a bunch of things along with a 2-drop, especially like those like 4-cost powerhouses. Play the Quake and potentially win a lane that the people they weren't expecting, and then you end up winning. Like, sometimes you might even win all 3 in a way. Who knows? But yeah, Quake, honestly, I kind of like that change. I kind of like that one. Alright, now we have Kingpin, old 3/4. When a card moves here on turn 6, destroy it. It is now a 2/3. When an enemy card moves here, afflicted with -2 power. Ooh, that's interesting. That is an interesting one for Kingpin. They probably didn't want it to be like, I mean, like, they got Grandmaster coming up. So if you move and it goes, you know Grandmaster is always going to go to the middle location. So if Grandmaster ends up being too strong or something, maybe the Kingpin can stop it. And obviously it kind of screws over move decks in an impactful way, because I mean, like, it being on turn 6 doesn't really do much. To be honest, for one, they can just avoid the location in the first place, or secondly, they might not move anything on the final turn. But now with this one, there might be some things, and it can unexpectedly stop some other things, such as Jeff, and I guess, you know, Nightcrawler somewhat played sometimes and stuff like that. It could stop some Phoenix Force decks, I guess. I mean, it won't stop them, but it'll make them a little less powerful. I like this though, and it's a 2/3. Once again, that 2 slot where you can just play like a tech card and just slot those in while things happening, and especially, okay, you know, those times you get New York, that could also be the case. And then that new card with Meek is going to be jumping around, and they won't be able to choose where Meek goes. So if he keeps jumping into the Kingpin lane, then it's going to keep getting -2, and it's going to screw over the Meek as well. So, and then wasn't there like a Hercules that's coming out too? So Hercules might get a little bit stopped by Kingpin. I wonder how the animation is going to change. Is it still going to get stomped on? One of the few remaining loose ends in our change to move mechanic during the last patch was Kingpin, and Fist Tower remained able to destroy cards thanks to Juggernaut. It's always been a source of confusion for some players, regardless of the outcome, and Kingpin's been weak enough that a rework was worth pursuing. This change makes the interaction with Juggernaut match existing expectations, because we consistently don't let unrevealed cards have their power modified by other effects. We also made the effect asymmetrical and tried out an aggressive set of numbers to see if we convince players to consider pairing Kingpin with Polaris or Spider-Man. In addition to being able to tech card against cards like Phoenix and Silk, another upside of this change, it also adds a good way to adjust Kingpin via OTA and find the perfect spot. So yeah, it specifically says enemy card, so you can play it as your tech card and it won't affect you at all, and you can still, like they said, something like Polaris and all that other stuff. Honestly, Kingpin might just be nice in general, because you could just like you said, you could play the Polaris in your Spider-Mans and stuff like that. And even though if they choose not to move any cards, like they have no move synergies, you can still play Kingpin into stuff, and it's kind of like reverse Kraven in a way, and then move their stuff to the Kingpin lane. You can even maybe play some Stegron stuff. Maybe you can play some Arrow stuff, and it'll move their stuff and give them minus power. Honestly, this Kingpin change might be kind of cracked. Think about it, you know, you can play Kingpin and Stegron on turn 6, move their thing. You could do a lot of things. Move tends to be more on the big brain side, so things can get a little bit cracked. All right, let's see. America Chavez, text only. Oh. The new give the top card of your deck +2 power. Gets to give. Okay, yeah. This is a non-functional text update just to make it better match our default choices for cards. Both fixed. After you play a card here and similar effects. I see. So yeah, that covers the balance changes for today's patch. If you're here just for that, well, don't forget to leave the like or hit the like button before you leave, and subscribe, because we're almost at 300. So if you can help a brother out, I greatly appreciate that. But we're gonna read the rest of these little notes and odds and ends. So if you're interested in that, stick around. We'll get right into it right now. We have a handful of non-intuitive interactions around after you play triggers for complicated coding reasons. The most prominent has been Angela, who will receive her power when a card that was played to her location but revealed at a different one. Thanks to something like Juggernaut, this doesn't match intuition around other uses of the word play, which typically care about where a card finishes resolving, such as Death's Domain. But if she worked the right way in that case, it would mean working the wrong way with stuff like Spider-Man. She would not get a buff from Spider-Man after he moves away. So either way, something would act unintuitively. To solve that, we implemented a new functionality in this patch that allows us to track where a card began to reveal rather than just where it finished revealing. That means effects like the two above work more intuitively now. Juggernaut will stop unrevealed cards from buffing Angela, and she'll now be able to get buffed by Spider-Man. Even though he moves away after resolving, this is also going to fix a few bugs that we had with Luke's Bar, as cards that got bounced sometimes became untrackable for the other triggers. So, well, then, yeah, wasn't there something weird with Nico Minoru? I don't know. The vast majority of cases, this change won't affect your gameplay experience at all. It really did only matter for a few corner cases. However, we're providing the list of cards and locations that have slightly different behavior now. Cards: Angelus, Titanic, Silk, Elsa, Bloodstone, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, Werewolf by Night, Echo, Lockjaw. Locations: Ultra of Death, On Maze, Bar Sinister, Clingbats, Danger Room, Death's Domain, Hotel Inferno, La Quetzalcoatl, whatever. Luke's Bar, Machine World, Noor's Dimension, Orchis Forge, Quantum Realm, Quantum Tunnel, Shuri's Lab, Sinister Legend. Yeah. Location updates: Old, when the card moves here, destroy it. When a card moves here, inflict -4 power. Wait, they also changed Fixed Tower? Dang. Okay, I wasn't expecting that one. All the notes for Kingpin above basically apply here. We still want a location that plays spoiler to movement, but without the confusing elements created by occasionally destroying unrevealed cards. Works for me, but -4 is kind of cracked. But yeah, that is the patch notes for Marvel Snap. Potentially. So this, remember, take this with a grain of salt. This might not be the exact changes that you see that goes live sometime soon. And once again, once I hit the partner program for Marvel Snap, I will not be covering really any more leaks for the most part. Maybe I will cover some, some unrevealed cards that have been data mined and stuff like that, just to check them out, just to see some cool effects that they may be cooking. But other than that, yeah, that's to be expected. So yeah, if you end up liking the video, make sure you like it as well as subscribe. We're about 44% of the people that watch the videos aren't subscribed. We're trying to get monetized on the channel. We need 1,000 subscribers. We're almost at 300, so if you can help a brother out, I'll greatly appreciate that. And we do stream Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, on the Twitch channel or the YouTube channel, whichever you prefer. Come along, we'd love to have you. And without further ado, that's gonna be all from me. I'll be blasting off, and I'll see you soon, Space Cadets.